All right. Hello and welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. Some of the stragglers may come in after we start, but we always like to give everyone a couple minutes to get in. So thank you to those of you who are joining us now. And I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Ben Parvey. I'm an author and inspirational speaker, and I help inspire people to live the life of their dreams by aligning their habits with their big goals. So we're going to get into that today, and it helps you find your purpose and picture who your true self is. So we're going to help you work on that some today, and it's through practical advice and learning that I've done over the years. So I'm trying to save you the time I've spent in doing that, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that. As we get started, though, a couple things to note. First, grab yourself a pen or a pencil and a journal. You can also, type on your computer or type a note on your phone. Just love everyone to be fully present, not necessarily searching around on your computer or going back and forth to screens, because we'll be giving you some journal prompts, and also, you can interact in the chat here as well. So we appreciate you grabbing a pen and piece of paper, and a journal, if you have it, would be great. We're going to talk some about journaling a little bit later. But those are things. Another thing I want to note too is after we do journal prompts or certain exercises, by all means, feel free to share your answers to the journal prompts in the chat here. Also, feel free to raise your hand and come off mute and turn your video on. Happy to have people sharing with us and getting live feedback. I also do group coaching for people, so certainly happy to have you join us as well. So, meaning by raising your hand and coming off camera or coming off mute. So anyway, let's go ahead and get going here. We want to start with a journal prompt. So ask yourself, what's one habit that you wish you could stick to that would change your life? What's one habit you wish you could stick to that could change your life? So take just a moment, take maybe 30, 60 seconds and think about that. And you can either write it in the chat, write it down in your journal. We'll give you just a second for that. All right. So, yeah, daily exercise, April, certainly. I mean, I'd add to that. Mine, I'll show you later my habit tracker, but I have like daily exercise or yoga, and I don't get to it every day. And I've been tracking my habits for about 5 years. And that's the one thing that I need to get more consistent with. I certainly do, 2 to 3 days a week, but I'd love to make it daily. I think that could really, have great benefits. Yeah, Chad, stretching, most definitely. Yoga is a great way to combine both, stretching and some exercise. But yeah, even just a little bit stretching. I worked for a guy years ago who lived to be in his 90s. He was a U.S. senator. And someone asked him what his secret to longevity was. And he said, just his daily stretches. He just gets up every day and stretches. And he was a noteworthy figure. Um, Organizational habits. Yeah, good one, Keely. And we will definitely get into that today and help you with that. So excited to talk about that. So thank you guys for sharing. Anyone else, feel free to share in the chat. Now, before we get really deep into this, let's all settle into being here and being fully present. So we're going to take just a moment to do a little bit of grounding work. So just meaning getting you grounded, getting you here and present, letting all the worries of the day go away, so that we can be here together at this time. And let's work on that. So just take a moment, and I want you to either close your eyes, and if that's not comfortable for you, just drop your gaze down low. Let your eyelids get heavy and just look down low. And take just a moment to do a deep breath in and then hold it at the top and then sigh it out. We're going to do 3 of those together. So let's go ahead and take deep breath in together, then hold it at the top and sigh it out. All right, that was good. All right, 2 more of those. One more, deep breath in, and hold it at the top for a couple seconds, and sigh it out. All right, One more time. Maybe like count to 4 as we take deep breath in, hold at the top for, 3 seconds, and then sigh it out. You ready? Here we go. Deep breath in, hold it at the top, and sigh it out. Let it all go. All right. Now, with your eyes, continue to keep your eyes closed or your gaze down low and just return to your natural breath for a few seconds. We'll give this maybe like 30 seconds to a minute. Just connecting with your natural breath. Just focus on the air coming in and going out. And as thoughts come up, let them just pass, like clouds passing through the sky. Try not to stay on any thought and just focus on your breath. Maybe feel the air coming in, breathing in and out through your nose. Maybe just feel it at the tip of your nose or that little spot between your nose and top of your lip. Feel it coming in and going out. Breath, just focus on your breath for about 30, 60 seconds. All right. Hopefully, everyone is feeling much more present and joining us here now. Try to spend this time together, grounded in what we're doing, focused on our growth and our success and our healthy habits that are going to help us hit our big goals. And let's try to tune out all the noise. Try not to check text, phone, social media. Let's just stay focused on being here together and learning and growing together. Always good to breathe. You always have that option to return to your breath when things get stressful, and you'll hear from me later. I sure have needed that recently. I've been dealing with a lot as my wife just ruptured her Achilles and had surgery, and I've been trying to help my 5 kids get through the summer okay while working on this and our other business, and it's been a struggle. So returning to your breath is always a great thing to do. And yeah, thank you, Keely. It's always good to take some time to breathe. All right. So getting into it, now that we're going to start talking about our habits, if you've ever struggled to stay consistent, it's not that you're falling short in life. You can't beat yourself up. It's just that you've been trying to force a version of success that wasn't necessarily aligned with who you are truly meant to be. So today we're going to reset that and we're going to rebuild from your true self. So what we're going to cover today is 4 primary areas. First, why most goals fail, how to set the right goals. Third, how to build supportive habits to support your goals. And fourth, how to get back up when life throws you off, meaning off your routine, how to stay on track, because it's not always easy, but I'll tell you, it really helped me this week, and I'll get into that further a little bit later. But I mentioned, feel free to share, put things in the chat. Happy to see it in the chat, but by all means, welcome to come off camera and get some live coaching as well. So I want to start with a quote I really love by Napoleon Hill, who said, "Desire is the starting point of all achievement. Not a hope, not a wish, but a keen, pulsating desire, which transcends everything." So if you have a desire to make this your best year ever and move past anything that's held you back from living in complete happiness and bliss, then we're going to turn that desire into action. We're going to make that burning desire for love, happiness, and success into real action that you can take today to live the life of your dreams. We're going to do this by aligning your dreams with your habits. And you may say, how do I know this works? I know it works because I've been doing this over the last 7 years. And it took me a ton of trial and error and learning and personal development to get to a point where my big goals and my daily habits are aligned so I can live the life of my dreams every day. Like I said, with 5 kids ranging from ages 3 to 16 and running 2 businesses, I have to be focused and disciplined to ensure that we all, meaning my whole family, can live happily and productive. So, I said this week's been a real struggle. The last couple weeks have. My wife ruptured her Achilles, had surgery a couple weeks ago, and she's basically immobile. And she does so much. She's a preschool teacher, and then during the summer she helps volunteer at the kids' summer camp, day camp, and it's just been an absolute struggle over the last few weeks. Basically, since she's immobile and basically bedridden for the next few weeks, even a couple months, long recovery for an Achilles tear, I'm having to do all this stuff for my kids to keep them moving forward, and it's been tough. And it leaves me very little time to take care of myself and take care of my work. So my habits, though, have been so helpful because this morning I actually finished all the edits on my book that my editor got to me. My first book, The Light in the Mirror. I'm actually working on my second one, Lead with Spirit. But it's my habits. It's the habit tracker I'll share with you guys in a little bit. So I woke up this morning before everyone was up, and for the last few days, due to it being in my habits, I was able to get through my edits. So you set yourself up for success by implementing some of these productive tools that I'm going to provide for you today. And I decided 7 years ago that I wanted to figure out why I wasn't achieving what I hoped to achieve, why I was looking in the mirror with disappointment and not seeing the joyful and successful person that I'd expected to see at that point in my life. So I'm gonna save you like tons of years and all the learning and all the mistakes that I've done because I went deep on personal development to figure out the tools to hack the system for creating the life of your dreams. And it's through aligned habits. You're going to learn some more about that. So if you want to live the life of your dreams and do that now, come and join me. Does that sound good? All right. Don't worry. This isn't going to be that hard. It just requires a system that works for you. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to talk about some past failures and reveal why clarity and alignment matter more than willpower. We're not here talking about willpower because as Dr. Benjamin Hardy says, willpower doesn't work. Instead, creating a system for your goals and your dreams is what works. So let's go ahead and do this. As we can go back, I'll take you all the way back to January of this year. And I was teaching a course. We did a course called Thrive in 25. You'll hear more about it. It was so successful that we're going to run it again a couple more times before the end of the year. But we kicked off the year inspiring people to implement their big goals. And I shared with entrepreneurs, professionals, and parents who joined us that one of my heroes, Chad Willardson, he's an author, CEO of Pacific Capital. He's written over 5 books. One of them called Fit for Wealth is absolutely wonderful. He did a LinkedIn post on New Year's Day that said that less than 9% of adults achieve one New Year's goal they set, meaning 91% of adults who set goals reach 0 of them. Now, there's a catch to that, though, because that 9% are only those who actually set a goal, and 70% of adults report setting 0 goals. So if you're following the math here, basically 30% of 9%, that is 2.7% of people achieve at least one goal that they set, meaning 30% of adults actually set a goal and only 9% of those achieve them. So it's 2.7% of people achieve at least one goal they set each year. So what are some of the common reasons that goals don't stick? So I looked into this and researched it some more. And the reason goals don't stick are fourfold. First, an unclear vision. So someone sets a big goal or a goal, but they don't necessarily have a vision or how to get there. Second, external pressures or distractions. And distractions really are a big one. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Unrealistic pace, meaning setting a big goal with no possible way to get there. I mean, I could say, I'm going to write 5 books by the end of this year, but that's not going to happen. I'm going to have, 1 book published and I've already finished outlining and I'm going to start working on my second, but 5 years, 5 books in a year is an unrealistic pace. And lastly, and I think most importantly, lack of identity alignment, meaning your goals are not aligned with your true self. Your habits aren't aligned with your goals. And that's what we're going to get into today, is finding true alignment in who you're meant to be, as well as the habits and the goals to get to the who you're meant to be. So uh, you'll hear during this, I love quotes. So I'm going to use a lot of good quotes because that's really, the knowledge that I've gained is by learning from others. So some of those quotes first, Robert Brault said, "We're kept from our goal not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. We're kept from our goals not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal." So these people took a detour, and we're always taking detours. They were trying to get to the top of the mountain to see the view, but then they saw a sign that said, "Beautiful view over here." So they lost sight of their big goal of getting to the top of the mountain. And we're always taking detours and getting off the highway to our dreams. Not because it's too hard or too far, but just because we're distracted by what's right in front of us. So, this little view, the little overlook to nowhere, lets you see the mountain, but doesn't get you to the mountaintop. Instead, these folks got to the mountain because they stayed focused and weren't distracted by what's right in front of them. So, does scrolling through news or social media get you to your goal faster? No. It just fills you with negative inputs of others, wastes your time, and takes your mind off what matters. Does a drink, meaning alcohol or a joint or a gummy, get you to wake up early and excited about your goals and dreams? No, it numbs your emotions in your dreams, so you put them off for another day. It slows you down in your journey, and I know this because I did it. I used to hit the weed pen or, have a gummy, or I wasn't a big drinker, but have a drink now and then when work was over because that's, quote, happy hour. But instead, it numbs you and distracts you from your goals and keeps you from being fully present with those you love. So this drive through life, though, is the drive of your life. So I want people on your drive of your life to stop texting and driving, stop drinking and driving, stop getting high and driving. And again, I'm talking about driving your life, not your car. But it's our addictions to the phone and alcohol, drugs, and negative news stream that are causing us to get into a tragic accident. And these are, and really other distractions as well, take our focus from what matters. And it's that dependence that takes us from what matters most, from our dreams and from our loved ones. So focus when you drive your life so you don't run off the road, because you don't want to keep driving like this, meaning you don't want to keep being fully distracted. So another great quote by Blaise Pascal, the French inventor and mathematician, about distractions said, "Distraction is the only thing that consoles us from our miseries, and yet it is itself the greatest of our miseries." Meaning distraction is the greatest of our miseries, because we're not heading towards who we're meant to be. So we all have certain vices and bad habits that we want to overcome. Most of those habits turn into dependence and addiction. And we may not even recognize the dependence as a problem, but it still may take us from our natural state. And when we're taken from our natural state, we don't operate at our best. And when you do operate at your best, you're putting good food and drinks in your body, you're feeding your mind positive content. And when you're not operating at your best, you numb yourself with junk food or alcohol, drugs, or mindless entertainment, or negative news and phone scrolling. But to get into a peak state and live the life of your dreams, first address the dependence, meaning the bad habits that get in the way of achieving your good habits. So even if you're not distracted by all the modern distractions in life, many of us are kept from our goals by that clear path to a lesser goal, meaning a smaller project or goal comes up, or someone knocks on the door and says, "Hey, can you just help me with this?" or meeting to your office, or the phone rings and you jump into something else. So that something else may be easily achievable. So you jump into it, leaving your big goals and dreams behind. And that small hit of accomplishment may make you feel like you took care of something, but it delayed your real goal. Your true self knows this, and your inner voice calls to you to do something about it. And you may experience some success, meaning in getting small tasks done, but it's not the real success that your true self requires of you. Misaligned goals and confusion Misaligned goals actually create confusion and burnout. When you lack clarity, your nervous system can't trust the direction. So those misaligned goals create burnout. And that's why so many seemingly successful people are not happy. They may be achieving professional and work success, but they're just accomplishing small daily tasks. So I certainly have experienced this myself. I mean, as a lawyer and then energy entrepreneur, I could go through the motions daily, but I'm not really making my motions, my actions work for me. I'm doing just what I need to do to survive. That's not working on your big goals. So people may be achieving some professional work success, but they're just accomplishing small daily tasks. And inside, they're unhappy because they're not aligning their daily habits with their big goals. And this creates confusion and leads to burnout. And your nervous system and your brain feel they can't trust the direction you take. And so you go one way when you know you're supposed to go another. And it creates anxiety and confusion. But clarity brings confidence, and confidence is contagious. So, another reason that goals fail, even when they're clear, is that the clear goal that someone may set is not aligned with your true self. So you may set some goal, but that's not the version of you that you know you're supposed to be. That may be the version of success that your parents want or your spouse wants, or you think that society expects of you. So those misaligned goals have created burnout in you. And another reason that goals fail, even if they're clear, is that the clear goal is not aligned with that true self. Gandhi said, we shut our ears to that still small voice inside us. What he's saying is that when you listen, you know what to do. When you listen, truly listen to yourself and your inner voice calling to you, it propels you into your future with clarity. So we're going to work some on listening to that inner voice. We all have a still small voice within us that speaks to us about wanting an amazing life and nudges us to our personal and professional dreams and clamors for love and happiness. I want you to give a megaphone to that still small voice inside. That is your true self and your higher power directing you where to go. Goals that are not aligned with your true self create confusion and burnout. And this leads to anxiety and dysregulation. So when you're clear on your goals and they're aligned with your true self, you can live the life of your dreams. Now, before we move on to, we've just discussed why goals fail. And before we move on to aligning your goals with your true self, I just want to ask you a journal question. So take out your journal if you have a minute, or if you have it near you. And I want you to think of a goal that you set in the past but didn't reach. And then maybe ask yourself, what do you really think got in the way? Why didn't you reach that goal? And I'll share with you, some thoughts that I have on goals I've set and why they didn't have in the past. But I just told you some of the reasons that goals often fail. You may draw on some of those, meaning unclear vision, external pressure, distraction, unrealistic pace, or lack of identity alignment, meaning not aligned with your true self. Those are potentials, but take maybe just 2 to 3 minutes tops and journal. Think of a goal that you set in the past but didn't reach, and then what do you think really got in the way? So go ahead and journal that, and we can come back and you can put answers in the chat, and you can also raise your hand if you want to, come off video and share as well. So we'll give you a couple minutes for that. All right. Just a couple more seconds here. So I'll go ahead and share, a goal I set in the past but didn't reach, and that was related to. We may talk a little bit about it later, but I started a company called OhmGrid to take folks off grid. So I own a company called Blue Sky Power that does clean energy project development, mainly for governments and institutions, and we were going to do similar type projects for people at their home, but taking them off grid so they don't have to pay high utilities and have consistent clean power. Um, we set an ambitious goal to do that, and I think it was too big and too fast. So unrealistic pace we mentioned before. Um, we just didn't really consider that it just wasn't reasonable to try to get to where we had hoped. So we ended up, having to stop that business because we lost so much money doing it. So I learned some really tough lessons in that. But what really got in the way was it wasn't aligned with my true self, which you'll hear about a little bit later, and it also was unrealistic pace. So that certainly was one for me. I've thought of and journaled some others, but anyone want to share what's a goal that you set in the past but didn't reach, and what do you think really got in the way? Feel free to put in the chat. April, go ahead, and feel free to come off camera if you want, or stay on off if you want. Go ahead, April, and you're on mute right now.
Oh, there I go.
Yep. Hey.
Hi. My goal was I was recently laid off from my job a couple of months ago. And so I've been sending out hundreds of resumes. And my goal was to master Microsoft Office 365. So Word, Excel, Outlook, and PowerPoint.
Yep.
And even though I know them, I'm familiar with them, and I've used them for several years. I I don't know them well enough, and I haven't used them in a while. So especially Excel. So I thought I could get much better at it while I'm at home doing nothing all day. But I didn't reach the goal, and the reason why is because I started very enthusiastic when I started, but after a few days of not receiving any responses back from the employers that I had sent resumes to, I told myself, what good? What's the point? Nobody's calling
Yeah.
me, so what do I need to learn it for? But the little voice in my head is still telling me that's very important in case somebody does call, and in case someone says, "Hey, we want you to take an Excel test to show us that you know the basics of Excel, and could I pass it?" But I just I don't know. I just gave up. And even though I know it's very important for me to do it in the future or to still learn it, I just don't have the motivation, so I'm still procrastinating.
Yep.
And
I
that's it.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, and thanks for being so honest about that as well. And sorry to hear about losing your job, but you will get something soon. And not only will you get something, hopefully after talking today, and we can discuss it some more at a later point if you want. But you'll find something that's truly aligned with your true self and who you are. But I certainly, as you were talking, I was thinking, we'll provide you the tools today to stick to that habit. Like I said, with all going on, I didn't necessarily have the motivation to get these edits done to this book, and thinking, I got so long to go, I could put it off, and I wanted to procrastinate, but it's my daily habits that kept me going. So you'll see later, we have a system for tracking those habits and for setting those big goals. And yeah, no one may hire you after a couple of days, but you're right. Someone's going to come and you're going to say, I am the expert. I think you can even get certificates that cost very little for being a certified, Excel professional or something like that. Maybe on LinkedIn has some courses, or somewhere. I mean, there are probably a bunch of certifications you could get, and that'll set you apart from others. So you'll get that job. Just keep going with it and don't give up. Practice every day. You know the thing to do. This is how I wrote my book in 6 months. I did it every single morning around the time frame of 5:30 to 7 before everyone else was up. And I just did it a little bit each day. And some days I didn't necessarily feel it. And I would just work on the outline or go back and edit something um, that uh, edit something that I had already worked on the day before. So yeah, just a little bit every day, April. Even if you say just for 30 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day, it's those little habits that get there. When you'll hear us discuss that a little bit later. Chad, not asking for help, trying to do everything myself. Yeah, I hear. I mean, I'm guilty of that as well. I mean, Chad, that's, part of the reason, we get overwhelmed with so much to do. We can't get to everything. And there are also people who are better at things than we are and who are great at things that we don't like to do. Um, so yeah, I certainly feel that. Keely, laziness and self-discipline. Um, Keely, yeah, I have to be honest with myself on this one. Yeah, uh, you know, it's not necessarily laziness, as much as that procrastination, and not even necessarily it is self-discipline, but I guess what we're going to find out today is putting a system in place for, who you truly are, who your true self is, then aligning big goals and then eliminating all else except getting to those big goals through daily habits. Um, that's a system that can work for you. I mean, maybe, you can say it was lazy, but you weren't motivated to do something, Keely, because it may not have been aligned with who you are. So I'm not sure exactly which habits they were, but um, yeah, Chad said procrastination is just perfectionism in disguise. And it's true. A lot of times we don't do stuff because we want the conditions to be just right to get it done, or we want to know that it's going to be perfect. And, what really happens in that is it keeps us from getting anything done. But there's a great quote that says, don't wait for the conditions to be right to begin. Beginning makes the conditions right. You got to just get going, but creating a system of your daily habits that get you to accomplish something will help a lot more. And, good is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. I forget how the quote exactly goes, but it's something like that. I mean, good enough is good enough and it's done. It doesn't have to be perfect. Um, yeah, Coach Letitia, imposter syndrome is it for me. My goal is to become a full-time writer, which you can do, and needing to type daily, but I don't see myself as an author yet. Okay. Well, Letitia, you already told me you're an author, so you may not see it yourself as an author, but you just told me you are, so you're already an author to me, and I'm an author. I just finished my first book and I'm working on my second, and I've got a launch going. And Letitia, you are an author. So when you look in the mirror, you'll hear later, I practice the act of saying I love you in the mirror, but also remember you are an author. Look in the mirror and say, I am an author, because Letitia, you already are. Make that daily habit of writing every day. Yeah, you got to do it. And I'll give you the help to do it. And I also, author Letitia, yes, Keely, she is. We are all celebrating the author that you are, Letitia. And I also have a tool, which is a little book starter kit that my friend, who's a global writing coach, she's in the United Kingdom. She was a Cambridge professor, uh, Dr. Nicole Jans. I will share that with you. That may help you getting your book written, at least working on it. So yeah, remind me. Yeah, maybe Chad, remind me to get the book starter kit to Letitia. Um, and yeah, April, happy to provide it too. And Denise, you have your hand raised. Go ahead and come off mute.
Hi. Good afternoon. I was just going to say that one of the goals I've had for, gosh, too many years to even think about is I've been in construction for most of my life and worked for other people, build for other people, manage for other people, and do for other people. And my goal has always been to build an intentional community. And I find every reason in the world why not to make it happen. I have the plans for it. I know how to do it. And I just can't seem to get it off the ground. And now that it's almost retirement time, this is when I need to do it the most, for myself and for others. And I'm just trying my best now to make it happen and trying to figure out how to get the motivation to do it, to make it happen, just in general.
Yep. Well, I appreciate that, Denise, and thanks for sharing that. I will say, uh, motivation isn't going to do it. We'll share a quote later. It's the habits that do it, not the motivation. You don't just sort of like all of a sudden summon this energy and burst forth. Instead, just taking, a little bit to do your habit tracker and then sticking that, but setting big goals associated with that. So if it's retirement time and now is the time to do it, you have a catalyst, you have sort of a forcing function or a time coming up when you can do this. And, you'll hear me talk about later, it's never too late to think big too. So if you're heading into retirement, you can have a whole new, beautiful career and part of your life that you want to now that you're getting ready to retire. So we'll get into that in a little bit too. So thank you all for sharing that. I was really, I got to say to each of you, I think that was one of the, most meaningful shares on that question that we've asked people before. And thank you all. Every time we do these workshops, we have different group, and this was really beautiful energy that everyone shared, and we're vulnerable on that. So thank you each for sharing that. But I just want to reinforce that it wasn't necessarily a lack of effort on anyone's part for not hitting your goals. It's that it may have been, either misalignment. Yeah, April. Yay, us. It was misalignment or a broken system. So we're going to work on that now. So now we want to talk about heading into the second part of this, aligning your goals with your true self. So this is the way forward. Before we were talking about what didn't work. Now we're talking about, this is the way forward. So in this, we're going to shift from externally imposed goals to deeply personal, soul-led vision built on an emotional connection to your true self, to your future self, who you're meant to be. So we're going to talk about setting expansive goals, ones that excite you, not shame you by not hitting them, and aligning those goals with your identity and how that ensures that your habits are sustainable and energizing. So, look, it's good to have good habits, but you need to know where they're getting you. You could set some good habits in place, but are they aligned with your goals? Are they aligned with your dreams and your true self? So you need to know where you're headed. You need to set big goals, and you need to make them really big. And so we're going to start by going big. Where do you want to be in 10 years or in 20 years? And don't worry about where you are right now. It doesn't really matter if you're 30 or 50 or 70 or 90. My dad's 81. He's going to be 82 next month. He works 6 days a week at Children's Hospital. He started his career at the famous St. Jude Children's Hospital as a pediatric radiologist. And, working 6 days a week is his idea of cutting back after selling his radiology practice 2 years ago. Because now when he works at the hospital, he's just working from like 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's his idea of cutting back because he's done with work at 2 or 3 instead of 6 or 7. But, another good example of that, not being as extreme as my crazy dad, but founder of the global advisory firm, Strategic Coach, which is an advisory firm for entrepreneurs around the world. Their founder, Dan Sullivan, he set his 25-year plan at age 75 to go even bigger. And that's what excites him. And with that kind of drive, he'll probably live to see that through to 100 years old, because there's no end to what you can achieve at any age and at any point. But you have to think bigger. Like I said, with 5 kids and running a 17-year-old business, was it wise for me to start a new direction, meaning towards doing coaching and workshops and writing books? I don't know. I still am kind of doing my original business, Blue Sky Power, which does clean energy, but it doesn't really work for me. It's not aligned with who I am. But this new direction, I'm excited by it. And I love every minute of it. And I can see clearly for the next 10 years and beyond, because I set big, audacious goals for the long term to be an inspirational speaker and a spiritual leader and a New York Times bestselling author. And I'm going to hit those because I'm excited by them. So what's your big, hairy, audacious goal? What seems outrageous to others, but in your heart is exactly what you're meant to do and who you're meant to be. That's your North Star. That is the direction you need to head. Who do you want to be in 10 years? And we're going to do an exercise in a little bit that's going to help you discover who you want to be in 10 years. And we're going to work backwards from 10 years out down to 3 years, then to this year, then to this quarter, then to this month, and then the daily habits that bring these goals to life. They are all linked. So I guess a question is, are you the same person that you were 10 years ago? No, you're not. No one ever says that they're the same person they were 10 years ago. But yet, people set goals and plans as though they will be themselves today, but just a little bit older. It's a great irony that our brain plays is it's just not the case. You'll be a totally different person in 10 years than you are today or than you were 10 years ago. So when we envision our past, we say, no, I'm not the same person I was 10 years or 20 years ago. I've learned so much more. I've changed so much more. I've grown so much more. But when we envision our future, usually we set goals for the future as though we'll be like ourselves today, just a little bit older. But there's an idea, concept called prospection, which is the ability to mentally represent and evaluate possible futures. It's a fundamental psychological skill that includes planning, prediction, and imagining future scenarios. So when we envision future scenarios, we limit ourselves to what we know now. But there are no limits. Our goal in this workshop is to open up our minds to think without limits. So, I worked on the hamster wheel for a lot of years. And, a lot of these things I'm teaching today, it took me, over 7 years to develop and learn and understand. But when I was only 27, I was in my second year of law school. It's the end of the second year of law school, heading towards exam time. And I'm in the kitchen one night making dinner, and my left foot feels a little warm. And I looked down. I wasn't wearing shoes. I looked down to see if maybe the dog just peed there, or if like there was a hot water pipe under the floor. There was nothing there. And that night I got into bed, and my left foot started twitching. My left leg started twitching every couple seconds. Within 2 days, I couldn't lift my left foot. And a couple days after that, I lose the ability to hold a pen in my right hand or type with my right hand, which is kind of essential for law school exams. And so my head was spinning and my body was deteriorating. Like, I was only 27. What on earth was happening? I'd just been elected class president and editor-in-chief of Law Journal. I was pulling all-nighters on the regular, and my nervous system was telling me to slow the heck down. MRI showed that I had lesions in my brain and my spinal cord. It was the onset of multiple sclerosis. And I was relieved, however, when my dad, I said, who's a doctor, told me I wasn't going to die right now, but that could get worse. I'm thinking, like, worse? How is this going to get any worse? And yeah, I was then in the neurologist's office awaiting more tests and a spinal tap. And I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror. And this still small voice inside of me said, FDR was in a wheelchair. He did okay. You can do this. So I listened to that still small voice inside, and I got up, and instead of quitting, I moved forward and I kept going. But over the next 3 years, when I overdid it as a young lawyer, I did have 2 subsequent MS flare-ups where I lost vision in each of my eyes due to lesions on my optic nerves. But our body is miraculous, though, and heals itself when you care for it properly. And although I have some residual nerve damage, thank God I've now gone almost 18 years without another flare-up. But the lesson is simple. You have to listen to your inner voice when it tells you to slow down. Just like you have to listen when it tells you to get up and run into your future. But I wasn't listening to that still small voice inside anymore. I was just running in circles as a young lawyer and a parent and entrepreneur, hoping for things to get better. And for years, I saw sad eyes looking back at me in the mirror, wondering why I hadn't hit my potential. I knew I wasn't living as my true self. 2 decades go by where I wasn't listening to my inner voice. But in the summer of 2018, like I said, 7 years ago, I have a complete awakening. I decide that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I decide to start working on and improving myself and start learning and growing again. And that summer, I read a book called The Power of Intention by Dr. Wayne Dyer, who recommends that we look in a mirror, make eye contact with yourself, and say, I love you. And then do that as many times as you can throughout the day. And I've done a whole lot of personal development since then, but that was a turning point for me. And this 7-year journey has been extraordinary and brought me to a place of deep personal alignment with my true self and my personal, professional, and spiritual growth. And once I saw the light in the mirror, it dawned on me. I'm meant to inspire people. That's what my true self is meant to do. That's what that still small voice inside have been telling me for decades. That's why I saw sad eyes in the mirror for so many years, because living as a lawyer and then clean energy entrepreneur isn't living as my true self. I'm not making enough impact every day. Writing books and inspiring you is my true calling. What is your true calling? From the podium or in a course or workshop like this, I get to use my voice to help others find their voice. That's why I'm talking to you today, to inspire you to live the life of your dreams, to listen to your inner voice, and then to set big goals based on what you say. So, are you listening to that still small voice inside you? What is it telling you? In the immortal words of Nelson Mandela, who lived fully through struggle and triumph, there is no passion in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. I want you to live the life of your dreams, which you can do today by living as your true self and setting big goals with a plan to achieve them. So how can you do this? First, listen to your inner voice. Second, write down what you hear so you can set big goals. Third, implement daily habits that help you live as your future self and achieve your goals. So as your feet hit the floor tomorrow morning, walk into the bathroom, step in front of the mirror, lock eyes with yourself, and say, I love you. And then go spread that light out into the world. The world needs you to shine brightly now more than ever. The world needs you to be at your best, and we need you now. So as you awake with intention, put down the phone, stop scrolling, and just listen to your still small voice inside. What is it telling you? What do you need to do to live as your true self? Take some time to sit and be still. Like we took some breathing exercises at the beginning of this course. Take some time and meditate. Close your eyes or draw your gaze down low and think about who you want to be. Think about what that inner voice is telling you. Quiet all the noise and be yourself. We're going to get to a visualization in a few minutes that's going to help you to do that. So as you awake, remember, put down the phone, stop scrolling, and listen to that still small voice inside, because you can't live the extraordinary life of your dreams by playing small, by just going through the motions. Setting big goals and daily habits is the beginning of a glorious life, your true life, the life you're meant to live, not the one that keeps you stuck. One of the most famous architects and urban planners of the last century, Daniel Burnham, is known for skyscrapers in New York and Chicago, and even like the beautiful Union Station in Washington, D.C. But he's perhaps known for his famous quote, "Make no little plans, for they have no magic to stir men's blood and will probably not themselves be realized." He said, "Make big plans, aim high in hope and work." That's why we're here, to make big plans, to set big goals, and then to create a clear path to achieve those goals, followed by the habits that will make your future come to life. That's how you're going to thrive in 2025. Be bold and be specific. You see, big plans are actually easier to achieve because they limit the pathways to get there. Pathways thinking is easier than traditional planning. If you want to be in the best in the world or something, or achieve a big goal, there are only a few direct actions to take to get there. So use an example. My son loves snowboarding and started doing it a couple years ago. And if he wants to be a better snowboarder, there's a bunch of different ways that he can do that. He could watch videos, go snowboarding a few times each winter, take some lessons. He can even skateboard during the summer for balance. But if he decides that he wants to be in the Olympics, there are only one or two paths to get him there. By being bold and be specific, he's focused his decisions and narrowed the pathway to get there. There are only one or two elite training academies or coaches in the world that can get him there, and he has to stick to a strict practice schedule and a training regimen of an Olympic athlete. By increasing the goal and limiting the scope, he can create a pathway to get to better success. You got to be bold and be specific. Famed business strategist and author of Good to Great, Jim Collins, said, "If you have more than 3 priorities, you have none." So we're going to set no more than 3 priorities. Everyone is so scattered trying to do everything well that we give everything our partial attention. So if you want to thrive this year, thrive in 25 and achieve big goals, you have to limit your focus and say no to a lot more. I'm going to share my method for setting big goals and then aligning them with quarterly and monthly goals. And we can help you refine your goals and then set daily habits that will make you realizing your goals inevitable. So what I do is I visualize, I wrote a letter to myself from myself in 10 years. So myself 10 years from now wrote a letter to myself today. And he talked about what he did and what his life is like. And he was compassionate for the person that I was then. I did this about 3 years ago. And he told me about the things he's doing. And not until I closed my eyes to meditate on meeting my future self and then writing this letter from myself 10 years from now, did I see who I'm truly meant to be. From that, I was then able to make big goals, like big 3-year goals, to be the person I'm meant to be in 3 years. That gets me closer to my long-term future. And then I set annual goals that align with those big long-term goals. Then I set quarterly goals that get me to those annual goals. And then I set no more than 3. Each time it's no more than 3. And then I set monthly goals that align with the annual goals. And I'll show you because it's right next to my desk. And I just updated. This is from June. I have my July ones I printed out. These are the annual, these are the quarterly, and these are the monthly goals. And those align with my long-term vision for myself that I've created. So I also update this every month. So if you're on our mailing list, our email list, you'll get an updated goal sheet and monthly report that I do. And it's true alignment. You know, aligning my long-term goals with my annual goals and quarterly and monthly goals, and those align with my habits, which we'll get to in a few minutes. And I post these, you know, at my desk and in the bathroom. So I see it every morning. It's taped on the mirror. So I look at it, you know, anytime I'm in the bathroom, I look myself in the mirror and I see my goals and I stay focused on it. So you got to strip away a lot more. So we're going to talk about aligning your habits with your big goals. But remember, they're no more than 3. In each of those big, you know, long-term, annual, quarterly, and monthly goals I have, there's no more than 3. And in the Tao Te Ching, it says, in the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. But in the pursuit of the Tao, every day something is taken away. So in pursuit of your goals, you do not need to add more. You need to take more away. In your daily habits, take more away. Take more out of your life that keeps you from your big goals and from living the life of your dreams. Make your goals big and simple. Take away all the nonsense that wastes your day. Get rid of the distractions and focus in on your big goals. Find the pathway and strip away all else. Get ready to climb higher than you ever have. Your next summit is waiting for you because it is your time to thrive. Now, I want to get you to see that long-term vision for yourself. So we're going to do a visualization exercise. Now, imagine if today, on the other side of this Zoom, was yourself from 10 years in the future. I want you to take 5 minutes and meet with your future self. Close your eyes, envision meeting with your future self, and then what did you notice about them? Even what are they wearing? How do they seem? How do they carry themselves? How do they spend their time? What's normal for them? What are their daily habits? How do they carry themselves? What wisdom do they share with you? So go ahead and take about 5 minutes and do that. And then we're going to come back and we will share some of that if you want. But remember, you can also, I encourage you to do this, you know, a little bit longer after we get off today. Maybe not even 5 minutes. Maybe we'll give this like 3 minutes today to make sure we stay on schedule. But go ahead, take a few minutes. I'll bring us back. Envision, close your eyes or bring your gaze down low. Envision yourself 10 years from now. What is that person like? What have they achieved? How do they seem? How do they carry themselves? What wisdom do they share with you? Close your eyes and meet your future self. Okay. Let's start coming back. Sorry to take you away from the beautiful meeting you're having with your future self, but let's get back to the present here. And I'm going to give you a journal prompt. Hopefully, you did take a few minutes to close your eyes and spend a few minutes with yourself. But um, let's go to after you've done that. I want to know and put this down in your journal and write this down for yourself or write down on a piece of paper. What did your future self show you? So, what are three goals that align with your future self? What did your future self show you? What are three goals that align with your future self? What are three goals that get you to be that person? Or what has that person achieved that you, that glorious, peaceful, successful, happy, loving person that you envisioned, what did they do or what did they do that are goals that align with that person? So you might want to journal, what did that person show you? What did they seem? What were they wearing? How did they appear? What was that person like? I mean, when I did this a few years ago, I think I did it with, I did a 3-year and a 10-year visualization. I've even done an older, like a 90-year version of my self visualization. But, um, for my 3-year, which is a great thing to do as well, that's not that far from now. And I was able to see and set 3-year goals based on what my future self showed me. But when I envisioned what that person was wearing, they even dressed a little bit differently than I did then. And that was back in COVID days when I went from wearing, a suit every day to wearing, a t-shirt and pajamas every day. But I saw what myself 3 years from then wore and dressed like, and it was not like I had dressed before. I started dressing like that person. I started doing the things that my future self does. I created habits. I mean, I never thought I would be an author and, conducting courses to inspire people. And that's what I do now because that's what I saw when I envisioned my future self. So maybe take 2 more minutes and maybe three, and take a couple notes. What is what is that person like? Just journal. Chad, why don't we give them maybe 2.5, 3 minutes and go ahead and journal. What did your future self show you? What did they share with you? How did they seem? What are three goals that align with your future self? All right, let's go ahead and start getting back. And after this, we'll start heading towards developing the habits. But thank you, April, for sharing that you believed you could do it and you were proud of yourself. And that version of myself that I saw, I I just he had this aura about him that was calm and confident. And I was able to get past sort of the not calm, the anxiety ridden, and the self-doubt or lack of confidence that I had, which it may seem surprising to people. Like I was outwardly successful even at that point in my life, having been an attorney and an entrepreneur of business that's run for years. And you know it would seem that I was successful, but yet I still had that persistent self-doubt. That version of myself that I envisioned was so much more calm and confident, and let go of all the self-doubt and self-criticism. And uh, he also did things that, once I got off the hamster wheel, those are the things that I wanted to do, or like my inner voice sort of knew I could do, but yet I didn't do on a daily basis. Uh, so it was beautiful exercise for me, and I encourage you to do it. Writing a letter to yourself from yourself, but also doing a longer term visualization. Take 20 or 30 minutes of meditating and meeting yourself. Um, Keely said, be that person that makes people think, wow, there's still great things or by doing and giving. Yeah. I mean, there's actually there's a great quote. I think it's Jen Sincero in Be a Badass. Um, maybe it's not Jen, but anyway, so the quote goes, be the type of, I think the quote is, be the type of woman that uh, when your feet hit the floor in the morning, the devil says, oh crap, she's up. You want to be such a force for great good. And you can do that. And that's the version of yourself you usually see. Um, yeah, make the world, switching it to the positive instead of, oh crap, she's up, the devil or the evil would say. But the world should be so glad that you're awake, because we need you to be a force for great good. So, again, raise your hand, share in the chat if anyone wants to share in this. You don't have to. I mean, it's a deeply personal exercise, but by all means, share if you would like, by raising your hand or putting something in the chat. And if not, we can move on to building our habits. All right. So again, I encourage you to take the time to do this on your own for an even longer duration. I mean, we scratched the surface, but that is the exercise, I'm training you in today to do a full longer term meditation. Take some time, close your eyes, sit in a comfortable position, close your eyes, bring your gaze down low, and envision meeting yourself 10 years from now or 3 years from now even, and then journal about that and set goals that are aligned with that person. And that version of you that you just met, that's confident and calm and clear, it's not that far away. But they live on the other side of clarity and aligned habits. And the truth is, you don't think your way into becoming your future self. You have to experience your way into it. And that's exactly why we created the Thrive in 25 course, which I mentioned earlier is that 8-week immersive experience designed to help you reconnect to your truth and rewire you for how you show up in the world. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but for now, just know that it's real and your future self is waiting for you. So, how we talk about how we can go that way is building habits that reinforce who you are, reinforce your true self. So, we've talked about aligning to our true self. We've talked about setting big goals and why that's so important. And now we want to explain how aligned habits shape our identity over time. And when I began the regular practice of meditating and journaling 7 years ago, it felt difficult and awkward at first. I was worried when I was meditating that my wife or kids would walk in and be like, what's this crazy guy doing sitting here, with his eyes closed, cross-legged. And, it felt kind of awkward at first, but, I stuck with it and it became natural, heartfelt, and habitual, it became a part of my daily routine. Now that's part of my daily life. And habits, both good and bad, are hard to break. And look, heaven knows I've had my bad habits before, like smoking or using weed or staying up too late or procrastinating. But it's a lot easier to break bad habits when you have good habits and positive reinforcement to break them and putting a system in place. So the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, said, chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. So you may start these habits and think, you're not making enough progress. But when you look, I've been tracking habits now for over 5 years. I said, I got up this morning at the set time to write because I trained myself to do that through my habits. And in 2000, I guess 18, it was that a bright, enthusiastic young graphic designer named Chad Hagen, who's actually here today, is Chad H. Chad's making this workshop possible. Chad keeps the music playing and the slides going and puts all this together and makes the Zoom meetings happen. He joined our company called Blue Sky Power back then, and he gave a holiday gift in 2018 to me, which was the Habits Roadmap, which is this. I don't know if you can see in the window, but I'm holding up. It's basically a chart to put some habits, and you then track each day, whether you did the habit or not. Really simple. But I started using it, and it's just this simple daily checklist to set and track your desired habits. And in the words of Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. I'm putting that in the chat here. It's the quote hanging right behind me. There's a little framed quote up right behind my shoulder there. And it's the chains of habit. So as you set big goals, keep your focus by creating positive habits and routines. That's how we're going to make your goals come to life. You awake with intention each day by setting your big 3 daily priorities the night before, which we'll get into a little bit later in the workshop. That way, when your feet hit the floor, you know which way to go. So it's important to get your bearings and start your day with positive routines before you look at the phone. Connect with yourself before you connect with everyone else. I can't reiterate this enough. Stay off the phone for the first hour of the day and the last hour before you go to bed. Try to stay off the phone for the first hour of the day and the last hour before you go to bed. It's a great way to put yourself in the right mindset for success. Again, excellence is a habit. The quote is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. By retraining your brain to live a more positive, productive, and happy life through your daily habits, you're more easily able to achieve your goals. So even if you've done the same negative routine for decades, your brain can be reprogrammed through deliberate practice. So to train your brain to live the life of your dreams that you see in your thoughts, it takes deliberate practice to set new habits. So that's one of the big points of today's workshop, is to take the actions described and create new neural pathways that become new positive habits. So we are what we repeatedly do. If you want to see and do things differently, then set new habits and do them repeatedly. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, you can retrain your brain for love, happiness, and success. Positive habits are the key to making your dreams and your future real. So to get into a routine of positive habits and start framing up and building your strong house, it's worthwhile to track effective habits. We're now getting into habits and practices that make it easier to transform into the person you were meant to be, to hit those big goals. So there's a quote by Peter Drucker that says, you can't improve what you don't measure. And measure that way, you can measure and track that which you want to improve. So you track your habits. That way you improve your life and you make your dreams come to life. So don't wait to be the future that you want to be the person in the future you want to be. Instead, you can start being that person now. and you can meet that person that you just met. You can be that person now. And it helps to measure and track your progress. So you have to design the house, get the materials, and then build it, right? To build a house. So the annual, quarterly, and monthly goals that you set, that we just talked about setting, those are the designs. The habits are the materials. And then each day you build with those materials. Your habits are building that house. They're building your goals. So by the end of the year, your house will be built. Your goals will be achieved. So when you listen to your true self, you're able to see your future self and do what that person does. To race toward your future, it's much easier to create and measure the habits that bring you closer to the person you want to be. Even look, everyone struggles with improving themselves and being who they want to be. But it doesn't have to be profound or difficult. Just make it simple. The habitually inspired habit tracker, which is right here, I'll share with you in just a second. We created, it's a simple way of just setting 10 daily habits. I'll share mine with you now. All right, so here's what I'm tracking right now. Sleep by 10, wake by 5, meditate, journal, 1 hour flow on top priority, read a spiritual book, read the Tao Te Ching, 30 to 60 minutes of quality content per day, exercise or yoga, and PM journal, which I'll talk a little bit about soon. But the reason, this is from June. I have the new July one sitting on my desk. I don't do these electronically. I just checked a couple of the first few days to show you how it works. And look, right here, it says number per week, meaning the number of times per week. So if you want to, you may not do all those every single day. Maybe you want to work out or exercise, 3 days a week or 5 days a week. You just put that here. So I like to do this in paper, which is why, this is electronic, but you'll notice at the bottom, I have my goals. So we have yearly, quarterly, and monthly goals. So again, this Jim Collins quote, if you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any. You align your monthly and quarterly goals to your annual goals, and then you work every day through these habits to bring them to life. So I read a spiritual book and read the Tao Te Ching because I'm working on my next book, which is called either Spiritual Entrepreneur or Lead with Spirit. I'm not quite sure yet, but it's about having faith in yourself and others and in your higher power to be successful in life. And, I'm doing these daily to help me achieve that goal of finishing that book. 1 hour flow on top priority. That's a great way to get, the hardest thing done early in the day. A great book. I'll stop sharing now so we can keep going. There's a great book by Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog about doing the hardest thing first. Doing the hardest thing first so that you can get it done and not procrastinate. And then the rest of the day is smooth sailing because you've gotten the big hard thing out of the way. So again, charts were broken out by week. You just write the habits you want to work on. Practice regularly, improve. And it's anything that you want to help you hit your personal, professional, and spiritual goals. Those, maybe, relationships. I used to be very distracted. So I had as a goal that I practiced for about 3 or 4 years, after work to put my phone on the charger and at least 1 hour of quality time with my kids. I tracked that. And now it's just regular practice where I don't look at my phone and I spend time with my kids. So you want to use the habit tracker to set those things that help you get there. Maybe it's a fitness goal. I lost over 30 pounds doing intermittent fasting by tracking my intermittent fasting each day. So for now, just focus on what you want to improve and start tracking it. Try to make those habits that will help you achieve your big 3 goals. The habit tracker is a great way to do that on paper or digitally. But remember, if you do it on your phone or computer, don't use your phone for the first hour of the day you're awake. You can track your habits. You can track your habits later in the day, but don't look at the phone or computer for the first hour unless you're just turning off an alarm or maybe playing some positive music or listening to a book while you work out or meditate. You don't want to get stuck on an app and then email or text to track your habits and then switch between emails and text. Maybe just track your habits a little bit later in the day or later in the morning. So now to answer your question, April, no, you don't track just three things. You can track, up to 10 or 12 different habits. But you don't want to set any more than three big goals. So no more than three big goals. So your daily habits, things like sleep, exercise, um, working on, your top priority that helps you implement your goals. You could set, 5 to 10 different goals. So yeah, we can go ahead to a journal prompt that is a great way to get you to do those. I guess actually, yeah, let me cover, before we get to that journal prompt, why don't we come back to that in just a minute? There are a couple of things I want to cover first, and that is, about setting those and aligning those with your goals. So you asked a good question, April, about tracking, and that is, um, you want to set those big goals. So you don't want to wait for the future to happen. You want to start by being the person you're meant to be now. So it helps to measure and track your progress. So you've done that by using your habits to implement your goals, but you want to listen to your true self. And you want your future self to help you create those by looking at your goals and then saying, what are the habits that I can implement that are going to help me get there? So, um, you know, stay off the phone certainly is one. You want to get some sleep, you want to exercise, but they're your habits that you can implement. So I've been tracking for over 5 years, and I'm starting to be that person that, like the Aristotle quote, we are what we repeatedly do. My habits may change slightly from quarter to quarter based on what I'm working on or trying to improve that aligns with my goals. Like I said, I I used to have in there meditate and journal at 5:30 to 7 a.m., but instead, when I was writing my book, I changed it to write every day from 5:37, and that helped me hit my goal of getting my book written in 6 months. So, uh, those are what I'm tracking right now. And is it perfect? No. Do I get to every single habit every single day? Sadly, no. Life gets in the way and I miss one or two of my habits. But on the days when I'm at the best, I hit them all. And those days become more frequent the longer I track my habits. I make time for them and I make sure I do these like my life depended on it. And you know what? My future self does depend on it. Yeah, thank you, Jeremiah. Uh, because I can't reach my goals if I'm not doing these habits. So as I go along, I'm more able to live at my best more often because I'm hitting more of my goals or more of my habits every single day. That which I'm measuring is actually improving. So you want to track what works for you. So look at the goals you're setting, those big three goals that you're setting, they're aligned with your future self. And then see what you need to do to hit those goals and make those areas your daily habits. What does the person you dream of being do each day? You journaled about that vision of yourself in 10 years or even in 3 years. But what does the future self do each day that you are not doing now? Again, go back to that person that you envision. What are they doing each day? Pick those things and be that person by practicing each day, and you'll quickly become that person. So once you pick those, you'll realize that your life improves and you're tracking that which matters most to you. And you're holding yourself accountable by tracking it. So now, I don't necessarily hit every single one of those, like I said, every day. So you don't want to beat yourself up. But I started tracking the habits that my future self would do, and I did them. And I started to become that person. Now, do I reach him fully? Did I fully become my future self? Not yet. But my vision for myself continues to grow and new habits evolve as I continue to go forward. So you want to look at who do you want to become? And are you fired up to become that person? Jim Rohn said, motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. We're here to thrive this year and to set big goals, but this year we're going to accomplish those goals. You're going to be in that 2.7% of people that accomplish your goals because you're putting habits in place that make achieving those goals inevitable. So right now, let's put that prompt back up. Take a couple minutes and journal. What are 5 to 10 habits that'll help you become your future self in 3 years or even in 10 years? What are the habits that your future self was doing? Or what are habits that'll help you hit those goals? What are 5 to 10 habits that'll help you become your future self, the self that you envisioned? Or even uh, as Letitia put, saw myself standing tall in peace, sharing my healing and inner healing journey to uh, wholeness with others, with written manuscripts on healing. That's great. So, what are the habits that can help get you there, Letitia? So, go ahead and take 3 minutes, like we usually do. Take 3 minutes and journal. Uh, what are 5 to 10 habits that'll help you become your future self? All right, let's keep going so we can stay on track today. Again, you can come back to these. Welcome anyone to share what are some of the habits. If you want some feedback, feel free to raise your hand and turn your video on if you want to be seen. If you want to stay off video, that's fine as well. And you can also put in the chat if anyone wants to share or get any feedback on developing habits. And like I said, these don't have to be 7 days a week. They could be during the work week, 5 days a week, or 3 days a week if that works for you. The point is setting habits that align with your future self, with your goals, your 3 goals that you're setting. And the habits, something like I have on there: sleep by 10, wake by 5, so that I get at least 7 hours of sleep, and so I can get up early to do work before my wife and kids and everyone are up. That isn't necessarily directly correlated to my big annual goals of publishing my book, working on my next book, doing workshops, doing our course, doing a retreat, and doing interviews. But they help me get to my future self. So they don't necessarily have to be a match, as where your annual goals, quarterly goals, and monthly goals all should be aligned. So anyone want to share habits? And remember, this isn't a test. Yeah, Keely. All right, good. Only drink 2 glasses of wine on Wednesday and Fridays only. That's great. Stick to that. Yeah. I talked a little bit about it before, and I'm definitely not being preachy here, and every, adult can, drink or use weed or whatever it is responsibly. Like I said, I was never a big drinker, but I would, smoke weed or you hit the weed pen or take a gummy. Um, you know, Sometimes on weekdays, certainly on the weekends. And, you know, I, I just did it for so long. It was just such a habit. And I realized at a certain point, I did an ayahuasca retreat a couple summers ago, and in preparation for that, they say like no weed, no alcohol, you know, and stick to a strict diet. I cut out like dairy and spicy foods and pork and beef and all this stuff as part of preparation for the ceremony. And I felt so good after cutting out weed and alcohol for I guess it was about 3 weeks before that, and they recommend like 2 to 3 weeks after. I felt so good for that month that I never went back. I had never even planned on sort of going cold turkey, but I did, and it's felt absolutely wonderful. And I'm more on point, achieving far more than I ever have since I totally got rid of uh, alcohol and weed. So I'm not saying you have to be that extreme, Keely, but sticking to that is absolutely great. Like the wine, yes, it makes you feel good. And yeah, wine, a couple glasses of wine here and there are not terrible for your health, but it does sort of slow you down or numb you or takes you off of pursuing your goals and dreams. So yeah, limiting that's great. Stick to that. You certainly got my support in that. I have a whole chapter in my book about, eliminating substances, as well as stuff like limiting the negative news and phone scrolling, etc. April, getting up early, exercise at least 30 minutes, meditate on why I'm good enough for 5 minutes, write down 5 things I'm grateful for today, etc. Wonderful, April. Those are wonderful. So you can put those in your habit tracker and use those. If you don't have a habit tracker yet, we will send it out right after the course. Great. Anyone else want to share? All right, Coach Letitia, get up upon waking, sitting in stillness, writing and typing daily for an allocated time frame, do physical therapy, and eat small meals. Great. All right, you got health, fitness, work, mindfulness. Great. Yeah. Awesome job. Those are wonderful. The habit tracker will really, really help with this. Like I said, is it perfect? Do I hit all of them every day? No, I don't necessarily, but tracking has helped me improve tenfold from where I was, when before I started tracking 5 years ago. All right. Thank you guys so much for sharing. And anyone else, feel free to share. We can come back to it. I'm going to go ahead and move on now to, like I said, we don't always hit all our goals, meaning all our habits every single day. But what I want to talk to you about now is overcoming setbacks and building resilience so that nothing can stop you. So you don't turn back and say, hey, I didn't hit these goals. Maybe it takes you a little bit longer than you might have intended for it to, but we're going to talk about overcoming setbacks and building resilience. And, I've really gone through that more than ever. In the last few weeks, it's been really tough for me. I got to tell you and be honest with you. I've really been struggling. And I don't usually, a lot of times I'm very personal with folks, but a lot of times, I've had time to think about it and reflect on it and usually written about it. Right now, I haven't really written about it, other than shooting a video the other day about it. But I've been struggling. Like I said, my wife ruptured her Achilles a month ago at dancing at a kid's party. And no joke, she was dancing to Timber by Kesha and Pitbull. It's going down. A night you'll never forget. Anyway, my wife went down. Achilles ruptured at dancing to Timber, And so she had surgery a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, to reattach her Achilles. So I've been the sole one taking care of my kids. And, it's summertime as well. And, being down a wife for a family of seven is no easy feat. I mean, I got no one else to drive. So, I am picking up and taking kids to day camp. I have my 15-year-old teenager. He wants to go do different stuff. He doesn't want to do camp this summer because he's leaving for school soon. Um, and I mean, all the meals, and I'm waiting on my wife as well. So not only do I not have her help, I'm also caring for her too. So like she can't get out of bed, unless I help her get out of bed in a wheelchair. And it will improve soon. I mean, I know it's going to improve soon. But the Achilles rupture healing is months. So it just dawned on me this week, like, I'm busting my ass every minute from the time I get up from like 5:30 until like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm getting everyone meals and snacks and driving and everything. And at the same time, I'm supposed to be working and I'm struggling. I mean, to be honest, I'm frustrated and I'm struggling. But it's my habits that brings me back to my future self. So, things like meditation, consuming positive content, so when I'm in the car driving to go pick up the kids, I'm listening to, the Dhammapada by the Buddha or Tao Te Ching, or an inspirational speech by Dr. King, or, something that Gandhi wrote, like, because that's in my habits. So I check every day that I'm doing those, and it keeps me, going and keeps me on track. And then I got up this morning to finish working on my edits because that's in my habits. Like Warren Buffett said, chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. So like, even though I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so exhausted right now, I'm also still, I had my habits to come back to. So this system that I put in place is totally working for me. So yeah, it is a lot, Letitia, and I do got this. I came to the realization that I got this. When she first had the surgery, it's kind of like, someone has surgery, they heal for a few days or weeks, and things get better. The Achilles it takes so many months to be able to, even function again. She's going to be in a boot hopefully soon, and maybe you'll get around a little bit more. And can we hire a nanny for a month or two? I don't know. Maybe I feel like April, it takes so long to find someone, by the time we hire someone, they'll be here. But I am starting to get to the point I need to figure out some additional assistance. But, my point in it is, and thank you all for your support and compassion. I really appreciate it. And I mean, it's been great supportive community and friends like Chad and others who've helped me get through this and been so supportive, and great community. I mean, where my wife's a teacher, she's a preschool teacher. They've made meals, every few days someone brings a meal over. It's been such a huge help. So, it does take a village, and there, a lot of great people to help, but we don't have family nearby to rely on. So it's been a struggle. But my point in this is having my habits to come back to has helped me stay on track. If I didn't have my habits and been tracking my habits for all these years, I probably would have been overwhelmed. I'd probably be so frustrated. I'd probably be yelling at everyone, and I would probably be, not achieving those things that I need to achieve. Now, I'm definitely not getting to some stuff, but that's probably stuff I need to say no to anyway. But look, the point is, tracking your habits helps you succeed. So you don't need to worry about, whether it gets you there or not. Because when you take a risk, like achieving your big goals, and you listen to your inner voice and you pursue a path, it's not about whether you get to the end goal, because there are always twists and turns, like the twist I'm dealing with now. It's not about the destination. It's about who you become in the process. So when you set big goals, even if you fall short, you end up much further ahead than you were before. I was supposed to have my book finished by the end of this quarter, which my book is fully written, but I'm working with my editor. It was supposed to be published. I'm a couple months behind due to this sort of slowing me down, but I've still got my goals to keep it moving forward. So when you set big audacious goals, even if you fall short, you end up much further ahead than you were before. So don't be hard on yourself. Tracking your habits isn't a test. You're not competing against others. You're only keeping track so that you can improve. So some weeks, some months won't be as strong as others. Yet if you want to live in bliss, then keep tracking and improving. So you aren't always going to feel that perfect balance. But, this week I was dedicated to my habits since they had been way off. And, the start of July yesterday is a new month, a new quarter, new half of the year. And look, life got in the way. But starting this month, I got back to my routine. And I did those habits that helped me get back to a state of balance and bliss. You aren't always going to feel that balance. Either tragedy like this happens, a busy life takes you from your healthy habits like sleep, meditation, journaling, and exercise, or something happens that gets in your mind. Something bad may happen. So the negative recurring thoughts may take over again. But it's not always perfect. But the more you work at it and trust your future self as your guide, the more you stick to your healthy habits and you become your future self. So no matter how busy you are and what negativity impacts your life, you're never too busy or distracted to take 2 seconds to look yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. And you're never too busy to put your hand on your heart as you fall asleep and say, I love you as you drift off to blissful sleep. You got to stay positive. You got to do those things that helps put you in the right frame of mind. You got to keep going even when you don't feel it. In fact, when you don't feel it is the perfect time to reset. When your computer isn't working properly and that dreaded, spinning wheel keeps going and nothing's working, you press Control Alt Delete or you hit the restart button. And it's the same here. When things aren't going well and you're off your game, you reboot yourself. You go back, you look at your habit tracker, and you begin again. And this is your reboot. This brings you back to your true self. This brings you back to accelerating towards your big goals. So once you head down this path and see the light it brings you, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee the light in the mirror because the light in the mirror is you. So even when you had bad days, those days get shorter and less frequent, and you can change the trajectory more quickly. So your habits keep you going and help you get back to who you are meant to be. So when a challenge, a tragedy, or an event like this happens, or just a bad day knocks you off track, getting back to tracking your habits and helps you find alignment with yourself again and keeps you heading towards your big goals so you don't stay off track. So that's really the method. And we're going to close in a minute. And I just want to, I guess go to a journal reflection, maybe. I want to ask you here, what is one small action that you'll take in the next 24 hours that will help you move towards your future self? So, we talked about, why goals fail. We talked about aligning your goals with your true self, being your future self, and then creating, no more than 3 big goals, whether those are 3-year goals or annual goals that help you get to be your future self, and then creating habits that help you become your future self. So with all the self stuff we've talked about today, what's one small action that you'll take in the next 24 hours to move towards your future self? Apply for my business license. Yes, Keely. It's so easy. You just go to your state, the Department of State, and look for register my business. You even search for, register my business in whatever state you're in, and Google will pop it up. You fill out, I've formed, I don't know, 4 or 5 businesses over my life. And it's really easy. You just apply for it and you fill out a form. You go to the IRS and you get a tax ID number. And that's it. By all means, reach out if you need any help or guidance on that. But go ahead and do it, Keely. You can do this. You got this. Anyone else? What's one small action you'll take in the next 24 hours to move toward your future self? Oh, you're welcome, Keely. Yeah, let me know if you need any help or support in that. All right. Stop applying for jobs to pay the rent and apply for jobs that I'm passionate about, helping people. Yes, April. That's what you got to stop doing. Stop killing time mindlessly applying for jobs that just get you paid, and be who you're meant to be. Even if it takes an extra few weeks, it's more worth it getting that job. The money will come from somewhere. Even if the rent's late, they'll deal with it. They're not going to kick you out today, maybe tomorrow, but no, you're going to be okay. I've dealt with that kind of stress being a business owner for years. There are a lot of times when I'm just waiting for money to come in so that I can be able to pay, people. I had to let people go when we didn't have enough money to pay based on a new business we started. But, it's not going to kill you. You're going to be okay. And you'd much rather get a job that you're passionate about and that helps people. Yeah, if you know you're going to hate these jobs, don't do them. You absolutely should not do them. Keely, I quit that kind of toxic job. It's supposed to be my last day today, but I didn't go to come to this workshop. Yes. I love, Keely, that you didn't go to the last day so you could be here, and the timing was perfect. Everything in the universe happens exactly as it is supposed to happen. So you are here today. You didn't go to that toxic, shitty job that made you miserable just so you could be here today. And this is the beginning of your bright future. And Keely, I want you to set big goals and do what's next. And, same for you, April. Like, you got to be that person that you were meant to be. Envision your true self. Create the big goals that help you be your true self, and then daily habits. Right now, it may be small. It may be setting, goals that help, or setting daily habits that help you find that job. And you will get there. Coach Letitia, you're going to create a list of habits to follow through with and not overthinking, which causes me to be all over the place. Yeah, if you're not doing it already, Coach Letitia, work on meditation. And when you meditate, like I said, close your eyes, bring your gaze down low, and breathe. Just focus on your breath. Try to focus on your breath for about 20 minutes. And as thoughts come, observe the thought. Say, hey, there's that thought coming in, but I'm going to let it go, and return to focusing on your breath. Overthinking, if we all do overthinking. Where did I see that somewhere? That our brain has over 60,000 thoughts a day. And I was wondering, who counts all these thoughts? Who came up with the 60,000 number? Who is counting all these thoughts? But anyway, someone smarter than I am figured out we have roughly 60,000 thoughts per day. But your job is to quiet your mind and open your heart. And you do that by closing your eyes and focusing on your breath. And observe your thoughts. As thoughts come in, observe, there's that thought, and then let it go. So thank you for that. And we'll send you guys the habit tracker to work on. There. Got setback with having 5 surgeries. Oh my goodness, that's tough. That's tough, Letitia, but you'll get back to it. There's a great quote that I absolutely love about, crossing that bridge from being who you are to who you're meant to be. It says, you can't cross the sea merely by standing and staring at the water. So I want to tell you guys, now after learning what you've learned today and making that commitment, now is the time to put your spacesuit on and climb into the shuttle onto the launch pad to skyrocket into space. So staring at the stars is inspiring, yes? But it won't make you an astronaut. It's time to launch. A lot of preparation goes into launching a spaceship to blast off into the celestial hemisphere. But the voyage only begins, though, with the decision to climb aboard and fly through the atmosphere that stands between you and your destination. So it's painful not being who you're meant to be. It's painful wishing you could be that person you see in your mind and seems like it's either impossible or taking forever to get there. But it doesn't have to be painful. These are choices. This is your life to choose. You can either continue to go through the motions or let your motions work for you. You can stay in the harbor and stare at the sea, or you can cross the ocean. You can stare at the stars, or you can launch into space. Sorry. You can stay in that same painful job, or you can create the career you want, which it sounds like some of you are taking that action to change right now. And you can stare at your phone, or you could play with your kids. You could stay up late watching TV, or you can get up early and meditate. Do you know, Netflix actually showed, there was a study by Netflix, I don't know who released this, but their competition is not other platform providers. Their competition is sleep. Netflix competes with your sleep. So you can stay up late and watching TV, or you can get up early and meditate. You can busy yourself on social media or email, or you can make real progress on your big goal. You can be miserable in that relationship that you've gotten, that you've outgrown, or you can find true love with the person who brings out the best in you. You can sing the song you're meant to sing, or you can keep it bottled inside. These are all choices. And I know that some of these are tough choices, but they are yours and yours alone to make. There's a quote in You're a Badass by Jen Sincero, and it's not her quote, it's actually Elizabeth Appel said. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Your life is only created by you, and we all create our own reality by our mindset and the choices we make. You can choose to live a life of happiness and bliss by deciding to do so, but staying tight in your bud is more painful than the risk it will take you to blossom. At any stage in life, this holds true. It's never too late to be who you're meant to be. So be honest with yourself. Are you living the life you're meant to live? Are you achieving the one thing that inspires you most? If not, it's time to blossom. It's time to live life inspired. Remember that Mandela quote from earlier. There is no passion in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. You are capable of living an extraordinary life. Make it big. Do not play small. Do not settle. Do not aim too low. Les Brown said, most people fail in life not because they aim too high and hit, but because they aim too low and hit. Sorry. Most people fail in life not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. Make it an extraordinary life. Aim high. You want to set big goals because you can't play small. You can't settle. You know what you're meant to do and what you're capable of. You just need to get it out of your head, down on paper, and take action every morning to get closer to who you're capable of being. But it can't be small. You won't take action if you have a small goal because it doesn't matter that much. Most people spend their days accomplishing small tasks, doing a bunch of little things, instead of taking big action for significant blocks of time to get to seemingly impossible goals. The digital fast-paced world takes us out of shooting for our big goals, and it just keeps us feeling busy but not very productive. And so it keeps us from that bold vision of ourselves. You have to invest in yourself and start what was recommended here today. You'll find true freedom and happiness by taking care of yourself. To take care of others, you first have to take care of yourself. So you can make excuses, or you can awake with intention. And don't wait until that still small voice inside you is suppressed to a faint whisper and you don't hear it anymore. You know what you need to do. If you pause for a minute to listen, to truly listen, you know what you're meant to do. And then you want to write it down. And then every day, do what's necessary to get you closer to being that brilliant light you know you're meant to be. See the light in the mirror every day and then watch it glow and grow. So as your feet hit the floor tomorrow morning, say to yourself, it's going to be an amazing day. And then walk into the bathroom, step in front of the mirror, and say, I love you. And then go spread that light out into the world. The world needs your light to shine brightly now more than ever. So as you wake with intention, with your goals set and your habits aligned, put down the phone, turn off the negative news, and just listen to your still small voice inside. Listen to yourself and your higher power, and then write down what you hear and turn what you wrote down into action you can take today to be the person you are meant to be, to live your life of love, happiness, and bliss. So, as I leave you today, I just want to say, if this workshop woke something up in you and just know that the Thrive in 25 course was created to help you keep that energy alive. So it's these days in this workshop that we're going to cover over 8 weeks. So I invite you to join us. If you want to join us for a deep reset to find your purpose and create some personal expansion and expand on your goals and the habits we've discussed today. So if you're curious or open or even just intrigued, you can scan the QR code that Chad put up there. And we'll also send out a link and a recap email where we'll send the habit tracker as well as some other materials that will help you. I think we have a high performers daily ritual that we'll send out that you can see. So we actually offer special for workshops. So if you do scan that QR code and register for our 8-week, for the Thrive in 25 course, if you register for that using the QR code there, but then there's also a promo code in there that says habits. So if you type the promo code habits, you get 50% off. So this course is usually almost $1,000. Instead, I think it's $497 if you use the code habits. So if you found this useful, by all means, click the QR code, use the link that says habits. I'll type that in the code. There's a place, I think, to offer the promo code. So thank you so much, Keely. It was really a real pleasure having you here. Happy to offer you any additional support. And, I know you're getting into a new chapter of your life here and happy to help you turn that page. So let me know if we can be of any additional support. Anyone have any questions or want any additional feedback, whether that be on goals or habits or questions about the Thrive in 25 course, which is our 8-week challenge course? Yeah, and by all means, you can put any questions there. I know we're right at time. We actually went a little bit over where we typically do today. I think we had some good feedback and great interaction, guys. Really appreciate the comments you had in here and all the hard work that everyone did today in envisioning your future self. So remember, if you want to reach out with any questions, by all means, we're always here to help support you and help you to live that extraordinary life of your dreams. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Wish you all the best. And remember, I love you. Thank you. Be well.